She's thrown heavy and sharp objects at me, including knives, scissors, hammers, heavy ornaments, and has smashed up lots of expensive items, laptops, mobile phones, TV remotes, etc. I feel that if I told her I was finally leaving, she would have attacked me in a violent rage and killed me.
I was whipped across my face and back with a radio aerial, had my testicles squeezed and kicked. My forehead, eyes and cheeks had been gouged by fingernails. I've been punched full in the face in front of her brothers and mother in an attempt to provoke the brothers to fight. I've had golf balls thrown at the back of my head when trying to eat a meal after work, and was also cut across the back of my hands with broken ceramic, amongst many other things.
I firmly believe she's capable of taking the life of me or my children without remorse. She is able to easily gaslight those in a position to help and turns them against me.
She threatened to have me murdered, and I was scared that she might actually stab me. There was a period when I was always looking at her hands to make sure she didn't have a knife in her hand whenever she entered the room.
She fractured my cheek and split my eye. I woke to her jumping on top of me. She knew I had 300 stitches in my lung. Because she lies and people believe her. Because she really hates me, and I believe she would lie to get me into trouble. She tries to get other people to believe that I'm the abuser, and has passed on my details to men who she has to protect her from me. So I worry I could be targeted.
I rarely had food as money went on what she wanted it to go on. My sleep schedule was erratic, and this is part of the reason for the eventual mental health crisis.
Because she is a dangerous liar who will say whatever she wants to get what she wants from whoever she needs it from. If I'd been convicted of the false allegations she accused me of, I would have got 5 years in prison. I still get insecure when I'm out and about. I have to record myself everywhere I go with dash cam, just in case I'm accused again.
She can do and say anything about me, lie to the authorities, raise false allegations, alienate my child against me, and there is nothing I can do about it. I have no rights.
The authorities were on her side. Despite there being no evidence, it was assumed that I was guilty of abusing her.
The threats that she would make things up about me and prevent me seeing the children and lose my job. I thought I could end up homeless with nothing.
I was scared of losing my daughter because I knew she was capable of using a child as a weapon.
Ongoing abuse in the form of false allegations from her and using them to halt family court proceedings and prevent access to my son.
Because my ex-wife is still trying to control me through our children.
My ex is still controlling me through the court system and by continuing to teach my children to hate me.
An ongoing child arrangements case which has lasted a year and a half. It's still a few months from conclusion, and the psychological abuse continues in the allegations being made against me and in the fact-finding hearings when your abuser and their barrister paints you as someone who you're not. When their deception succeeds in the family court, it's very difficult to accept. You know you've done little wrong, and all you want is contact with your children.
If you try to call out the behaviours, these same behaviour patterns, when you see them in other females, you get labelled as a woman hater, an angry man, and so on.
Because I am acutely aware of what is sayable and what is unsayable, and the way in which the truth around domestic abuse is distorted. My partner used to deny that she hit me, and it is very difficult for me, and I presume for other victims too, to confront a society that is sceptical of men who claim to be victims of domestic abuse.
I could not sleep through stress, and would often go for 3 days and nights straight without sleeping. I became unable to handle any stress at all, and even my speech was affected. I went from being quick-witted and articulate to being unable to string a coherent sentence together much of the time.
My life slowly started to revolve entirely around not making her angry. She'd generally get angry just before I was going to go to bed, so I ended up with very little sleep, as she wanted to have entirely circular arguments for hours. My work suffered, and I eventually had to take redundancy.
I struggled to concentrate and sleep. I lost my job, I lost my home. I get emotional and upset regularly. I'm constantly anxious for my child's well-being and future.
I lost 20 kilos and became dangerously underweight. I suffered chest pains, then ended up in hospital with pericarditis. I couldn't sleep or wake up. I wouldn't eat or drink unless it was a whiskey to help me sleep. My friends and family were very concerned with the change.
She stabbed me with a kitchen knife, and I stitched it myself as she begged me not to go to hospital in case she got in trouble.
I was drinking a lot of alcohol to try and block out the pain. I ended up in hospital due to really high blood pressure and anxiety. I was suicidal.
It took a long time to realise how this has affected me, and many years to actually acknowledge that I possibly was a victim of domestic abuse. I get upset many times a week, a day. I don't get much sleep. I have a low mood a lot of the time, a lack of energy and interest in things I used to. I'm anxious for my child's well-being all the time. These feelings I feel are mainly after the contact with my child stopped, but heightened after the false accusations and a serious accident.
A huge level of anxiety as I was being painted out to be someone I'm not, second-guessing everything I do, walking on eggshells to avoid future conflict, feeling not in control of my own life and that of my children.
Significant impact on mental health. I had counselling due to suffering with severe anxiety, especially when I wanted to buy myself something. I remember wanting to buy a shirt, and I felt guilty for wanting it, as it would be spending money, and became incredibly anxious to what she would do and say if I did.
I'm a bitter, lonely man. I'm filled with rage and despair. I think of suicide most of the time. I don't trust other people. I'm 58 years old and the last 20 years of my life have been grim and they won't get any better. The control will continue until I'm in the grave.
I feel extremely restricted in my life, generally because of the consequences of doing things she doesn't approve of. I often have to meet friends in secret and feel I can't leave because of the threats in the past about suicide.
She would square up to me, but then say I was the one threatening her. When I got upset, she'd say I need to man up. When I didn't respond, she'd ask me if I was a mute. I tried to walk away from her a few times, and she'd block my way and say we weren't finished. On the few occasions I argued back, she made me feel like a monster shouting at her.
I feel like I'm disappearing and wish I could simply flick a button and stop existing to stop the constant pain. I cannot bear living without my little one, whom I was actively raising as a hands-on father, which I can and will prove. I love her and she is my heart. However, I don't think the system or the court cares into looking into this case from my point of view, and I'm dead on arrival. This has affected me beyond belief, and I feel like I'm slowly slipping into this dark thing that I'm not. Any traces of the kind, funny, happy, positive person that I was seem to have been corrupted by her and the system.